And Casey told me, make sure you have your mic on, and I don't even have my mic on. Oh, well. Anyway, I declare that we do have a quorum, and we also posted our notice as per the Open Meeting Act. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and the invocation. Sammy, you want to lead us, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, for the rain you've given us, and for the blessings that we have each and every day. Guide us now as we do the business of our city. Help us to do the thing that is best for the citizens and for the city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okey dokey. So, I'm standing up. Look, y'all can't see me behind this little screen. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and go into citizens' comment. I do have one here. Chris, do you want to speak now, or when are you going to speak?
I just signed that in case I'll need me to talk when the item comes up.
Oh, you don't have anything? Oh, okay. Well, good. Okay, with that, we're going to go into regular session as to consider and take possible action to approve the meeting minutes for August 31st meeting.
I'll make a motion to pass.
Okay, first a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, hold on. Ken and Sammy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. The other one is now we're going to open the public hearing for the BC 1C Division 14 Block 1 Lot Bottom Dollar A0049A Culvert in Freeport, which is the address is 1950 North Brassport Boulevard. And Casey, do you want to give us an update on this before we?
Yes, ma'am. Since this is a variance request, I wanted to first cite our Code of Ordinances, 154-509 about variances. It is under the jurisdiction of the Board of Adjustments, and any variance authorized is required to be entered in writing, and Yvette will take care of that for you, the actual order. And not less than 2/3 vote of the entire membership must approve the request. So since there's 5 members, 2/3 vote is actually 3.33, so the 4 people would have to vote to grant a variance. So tonight it would have to be a unanimous vote. The design criteria is just you can grant a variance because strict adherence would cause unnecessary hardship or a physical condition that's peculiar to the land. So with that being said, we're going to go on. Tonight's variance request is for 1915 North Brassport Boulevard. On July 25th, our Planning and Zoning Board approved a specific use permit for the owner, Mr. Morgan, to construct a mini storage facility at this location. So he does have permission for the project itself. When he submitted the plans, he is asking for a 5-foot interior side setback. As you can see by the table below, he's in a C2 zone, and the required interior side setback is 10 feet. So I wouldn't be allowed to approve the building permit the way it is. He is asking for the variance. And so I'm showing you the portion of the plans here. To give you kind of an idea, the black existing building on the right, that is the existing bottom dollar. He is asking here, if you can see, at the top, he is requesting a 5-foot building line setback all along this side of the property, and he is requesting a 5-foot building line setback along this side of the property. Now, to give you a better idea of what we're looking at here, I did a Google map for you. It is this side of the property, which is next to a very large drainage ditch, and then this side of the property, which is next to an existing building. We are recommending approval of the variance because the building here is more than 20 feet away. With the additional 5 feet, that would be 25-foot distance between any building, so it would not create any safety or building hazards. And then on this side, nothing will ever be built in that large drainage ditch, so there's no issue on that side. So we are recommending approval of the variance. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Morgan to speak on his behalf for the project.
So the map there doesn't show the whole project.
Turn on the mic. There's a button on the side, sorry.
So the map there that she shows there doesn't show the entire project. We're asking for a variance to go all the way down the ditch. We recently purchased the Bradsport Plumbing Building and the rest of that land that goes back to Jones Road back there. So the project's approximately 75,000 square feet total when it's all the way built out. So that picture makes it look kind of small. I just want to mention that. But really, she pretty much told you guys what I'm trying to get. And also,
So it'd be all
I came and applied for this permit, and when I did, the setback was a zero setback line back then. So I went and had my engineer plans drawn and stamped and approved. And once I did and went back to show them to do it, I had it approved through the Velasco Drainage District. The city of Freeport had changed the setback to 10 foot. I'm not sure if it was 0 foot back then or 5 foot.
I think it was 0 lot line there.
So it was 0 lot line back then, and I went ahead and put it at 5. And so once I went to go pull the permit after the Velasco Drainage had approved it during the middle of the change and went there, plans had been paid for and stamped and ready to go, they had changed it. So that's the reason I'm requesting this.
So is your property on that corner of Jones and
Yellowstone?
Yellowstone?
Yeah, so all of this.
It's the whole city.
Y'all have, because I know y'all poured some dirt or something there.
You know, somebody just showed up out of nowhere. I don't know this guy or who, or why he's never came back. He put like 50 loads of asphalt
Yeah,
out of nowhere. So he came to me, met me in my shop, and I said, well, I'm gonna buy the property, but I don't own it yet. You need to ask the owner of Bradsport Plumbing. He didn't ever ask him.
it's still sitting there.
Yeah, it's from the city. He got awarded a street, he says, somewhere to do asphalt.
Oh, they
And
put it
so they were
there.
asking if they could put it there. I never said yes or no. I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but for whatever weird reason, he took it upon himself just to drop it there. We don't have his number, and he's never came back.
I'd
What if
recommend.
it's the county?
I would recommend contacting Lance, because if it's a street job, he would know about it. Lance
Yeah.
Moody. We can
Okay.
do that for you.
You haven't bought the property where JB is?
Which one's that? No, I tried, but I ain't gonna be able to get that one. But we own the whole block except for that one there.
So all the way around?
So your storage stuff is going to be behind your building, the existing bottom dollar?
It's gonna be at the red light. See that part on the left?
See here?
Sorry, by the front of the road?
There we go.
Here?
I don't know. You don't have, you have a set
Do you
of the
wanna-
big- That's
do you-
that's the only.
All this?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I got you. Because I live there.
Yeah, he owns the entire block except for the one on your map in front of you, 191-810.
So
He does not own that one.
Brazos Plumbing is moving?
Well, he's gonna rent from me for right now, but yeah, he's thinking of leaving to go somewhere else sometime in the near future, but he has a year lease with an option, but actually it's just a year as of right now. But here's this if you like, it shows you.
Oh, Lord.
Venus have one in passing if you like. It's actually set for everyone.
I can see it.
Hmm.
And I can see it.
I'm just trying to figure, because that's right there by my house.
Yeah, I said, I'm familiar with that block.
Yeah, you could, well, yeah.
So yeah, basically, if you remember where all the granite was when you drove by at the red light, that's why I moved it, because I thought it was gonna be easy that day to go. And that's when I learned that they had to go through this new thing, and plus they changed the zoning at the same time. So I had to go through that first before I got to come here for this.
So he's done everything that's required of him, and
Yes, ma'am.
any questions from the audience, any concerns? Sammy, you have anything? You don't have any comments, guys? No comments?
future, it won't cause the owner of the other property there any problem with expanding or building or anything like that?
No, it would not prohibit him at all.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, well, with that, y'all, does anybody like to make a motion? Do I have to close it? Let me go ahead and close this public hearing at 6:11.
And I'll make the motion that we approve.
Okay. You gonna approve the variance for the zoning and subdivision control ordinance on 1950 North Braswell Boulevard, C2 zone in table, blah, 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 5-foot interior setbacks. Okay? So we're gonna go ahead, okay, you made the first motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
So you want your
Want
papers?
this back? Thank you. Okay.
Those two you did.
What you,
I know how much those things go.
yeah,
Okay, y'all have a nice day.
thank you.
There's another one there.
Okay, we've already taken action on that one. Now we're on item number 3. It says, question of declaring building and improvement located on the following real property, land, and the situated within the corporate limits of the city to be a dangerous, unsafe building and for an order to demolish or repair. And this one is a non-resident structure. It's on 215 East Park in Freeport. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:13. And Casey, do you have any updates, or is this the same one? It's already come up before, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So where are we at on what?
Just to give you a quick update, so
Yes.
on July 19th, y'all declared it a dangerous structure and had the owner vacate and secure, and you gave him a 30-day time frame, to come forward with a plan of action, and also to report the progress. Let's see, and we did receive a timeline proposal within the 30 days. Of course, we had extra days because we had to do the scheduling and notifications, and that's included in your packet. So to move forward, this is the actual structural engineer's report that was submitted to y'all. I would like to point out that the engineer specifically states that due to the dangerous conditions present, a comprehensive evaluation of all interior components was not performed. So they couldn't do a thorough report inside because it was too dangerous. That's on page 2. And then on page 3, the engineer again states, making the building safe for occupancy is beyond the scope of this study, and he recommended that the owner obtain the services of a qualified professional engineer to verify the appropriateness and adequacy of these recommendations. So because of the engineer report, the timeline of repairs that was submitted, they request 60 days to repair the roof, but they also don't completely follow the recommendations of the structural engineer. So in my professional opinion, I don't think 60 days is going to be long enough to get an engineer to do the work that needs to be done, to get the permits. It's going to take longer than 60 days. So my personal recommendation is to grant them a timeline of 90 days. And in that time, to allow them to get a full engineer's report of the interior of the structure, and then to obtain city permits and inspections, repair the roof and the trusses to the engineer's specifications, and then come back to y'all to return to the Board of Adjustments with another timeline of additional repairs, whatever the engineer suggests at that time. But I am requesting that y'all give them an additional 30 days on top of the requested 60. His proposal was included in your packets. And at this time, I'd like to welcome a representative from the property to speak on their behalf.
Again, Doug Colvin on behalf of Sandville Woodwicky, who is the owner of the property.
What's your name, sir? I'm
Doug
sorry.
Colvin,
Col-
C-O-L, V as in Victor, I-N as in Nancy, like Calvin with an O.
Oh. Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to be clear, again, we've been working closely with the city. I wanted to be clear, or ask that the board clarify what's required of us. We were of the understanding, because it was declared unsafe, that we were supposed to essentially make it off limits to the public and just making sure that no one was in there. I respectfully request more than a 90-day. In fact, I would ask this board not to put any kind of time restriction on us to get things structurally sound for occupancy. That is well beyond the purview of what we have planned. I believe that my client did comply with your request, and that was to give you a timeline as to what we plan on doing in the future. I don't think that we're anywhere close to making this thing structurally sound and/or ready for occupancy. But I do believe that the plan of action that we have submitted to the board does, in fact, coincide with what you've demanded of us. I would ask that if you are going to give us any kind of additional instructions, that you again start that timeline from, say, day zero, because again, I think that we've complied with your requests. Keeping in mind, though, that a 90-day, even 120-day plan of action to get this thing occupiable, if that's even a word, is absolutely unattainable. Right now, we have, working with hopefully persons that are going to design. Our grand goal is to make it some kind of an event center. So we're in the designing phases of all that. You'll see in the report, and I don't want to be redundant, it's all there for you. Mr. Duncan, who is our tenant, has prepared that, and he's shown you step by step what he is doing. And I think currently he's in talks with roofers, whether they be metal roofs or other type of temporary structure, to go ahead and completely enclose that structure. And I think hopefully that will take care of the city's concerns with regards to that structure continually deteriorating. So that's the first thing I would ask from the board, is kindly make whatever edicts clear as to what timeline we have to do with something new required. And number two, make some kind of finding as to whether or not the timeline and the things that you've requested us to do so far meet your expectations. And I guess our tenant wants to speak as to the specifics.
Well, before you start, Chris, I'm a little confused here, and I know I called Casey to try to, I'm a little pea-brain. Okay, you said tenant, he's renting from y'all?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
That's why he's been speaking on y'all's behalf. Sometimes he comes in front of us and, so who are we supposed to be listening to, you or him?
Both of us. In fact.
Do you have an agreement?
We do. We have a landlord-tenant agreement. We have a lease. In other words, I represent Ms. Woodwicky, who's the owner of the property.
Yes, I understand.
Yes, ma'am. And she has leased this property to our tenant. He's been tasked with the goal to comply with whatever your requests are.
So he's the one that's going to be fixing it?
Essentially, yes, ma'am.
So the money's going to come out of his pocket, not from Woodwicky, I'm sorry.
That's right. It's a combination type thing. And then again, we have the compensation worked out between landlord and tenant on their own terms. But essentially, yes, he is our agent with regard to build out and fixing this structure to comply with.
To be in compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody have any other questions? Any concerns? What do y'all think?
I understood, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead, Sammy.
I'm not in favor of giving a whole lot more time. You know, I'll give a degree with the 90 days to see another plan. But, you know, so far, there's been nothing done to secure that except a little bit of paint on the outside and then one fence. It's still not safe.
Actually, if you read the engineer's report, he says it is structurally sound. The only problem is if there's a high wind event, right, like a hurricane, we're in hurricane season, If you repair the roof and you seal the openings, then that will take care of the danger from a high wind event. The openings have been sealed, also a fence has been put up to prevent access from the public. Legally, I follow this as a city attorney too. If the government comes to you and says, you got to do something with your property, then the government needs to show where they have the authority to tell you what to do with your property. That's very fundamental, right? And so we have, in the report, we were told previously that what we need to do to comply is comply with those 6 things that the engineer said. We've done everything except the roof. I have a bid from a roofing company. They're ready to go. However, I can't move forward because there's a stop work order that was put on me since July 17. So,
Do you know why?
but the question is, there's 2 things. The question is number 1, does the law require us to make it habitable? And we're going to have a fight over that because the answer is no. If it is secure, y'all can make the finding that it's secure from the public. As long as it's not a danger to the public, it is not an unsafe building. Now, if I'm living in it, or if I have a business in it, and it has bad, and it doesn't have water, it doesn't have electricity, it's not habitable, then it can be condemned because people are using it. But as far as an empty building that's not being used, legally, all you have to do is prevent the danger to the public, which has virtually been complied with except for the roof. Now, and the other thing about requiring us to do an engineer report for the inside, I disagree with that. Whenever the government tells you have to do something with your property, the government has the burden of proof. So if the government wants a engineering study, just like they did the first engineering study, if they want an engineering study, then they can get an engineer and they can come and look at the interior and see what they need to do. But it's not a building that's being inhabited right now. It's an empty building. So the question is, do all those repairs need to be fixed to make it habitable when nobody's in it? I would say no. Legally, you are not required to make it habitable if nobody is in it. If you're in it, you're trying to live in it, you're trying to conduct a business in it, well, yeah, you have standards you have to follow to make sure that people are living there, bad things don't happen to them, right? So I had, so the requirement for us to get engineering and stay within 90 days, that's not correct. It's the burden on the state to get an engineering study. If they want to stop us or declare something, they have the burden of proof. Just like you go to criminal court, the state has the burden of proof. You don't have to prove your innocence in advance. Now, back in July, I would like to be in a position where the city is working with us to get this thing taken care of. I'm not making any money on this deal. I'm paying rent so I can fix the building, so I can prevent it from being torn down. I don't know where the pot of gold at the end of this whole story is, right? But since it is one of the few historical buildings left in downtown, I would like to have cooperation from the city. I would like to work together, right? So I had an email in writing from Ms. Roman. I first applied for a permit to build a fence, and it was denied. And it said, if you agree to tear down the building, we'll give you a permit, but if not, you got to get a survey, you have to have drawings and do all these other things and get a permit. Then I got an email from Ms. Roman saying, it is okay, you do not need a permit if you're building a temporary fence or an emergency fence. All right, well, I looked everywhere. I couldn't find a definition of a temporary fence or an emergency fence. I don't see it anywhere in the rules for the city of Freeport or in building code. So what I did was I contacted fence companies. Hey, what's the standard for construction sites for a temporary fence? I couldn't find anybody that knew what an emergency fence, but I would say an emergency fence is you got to put up a fence because it's emergency, because it's a dangerous situation, right? But as far as a temporary fence, talking to fencing companies, looking online, there are different types of temporary fences. The most common that you see are those chain link panels that are secured by sandbags. That, the fence in the front of that vacant lot, the city actually, with the prior tenant, I guess, city went up and put temporary fencing with those chain link fence panels across the front of that vacant lot. And you can see, number one, they look ugly. Number two, they weren't effective. You could just walk right through them, right? And so I was like, okay, I want to build a temporary fence that's effective, and it doesn't look like It doesn't look bad, right? It enhances the downtown. It looks good. It looks something nice, right? So when I talk to the fence folks, there are different kinds. One common kind is the kind with these temporary chain link fence. There's another kind for long-term projects where actually you put the poles in the ground and the panels are temporary, okay? And those are more secure and more effective. So after doing my research and finding that that was an option, that's what I did. I put the poles in the ground, and it was constructed so that the horizontal boards actually just slide into place. So without any tools, me by myself with my bare hands can take that whole fence down in 10 minutes, which would be faster than if I had those temporary chain link panels, because those are actually connected with some connectors, right, if you do it the right way. So I feel like that fence complies with a temporary fence and an emergency fence, because who knows what emergency fence means, I guess. That's not going to be the permanent fence. Obviously, any use of that property is going to want to use that vacant lot. You're going to need to have access to that lot, right? So this fence is temporary while the construction is in progress. However, a stop work order was placed on the front door. I think it was July 17. It was placed on the front door, and including a warning that says if you violate the stop work order, you could get 6 months in jail, right, and pay huge fines. Well, I don't want to go to jail or pay a huge fine. So I've done nothing since that stop. I've done some paint, but nothing material since that stop work order went up. I'm ready to go. Like I said, I have a roof contractor. They're giving me a bid. They're ready to go forward and repair the roof. It's hurricane season. If a hurricane comes, who knows what's going to happen to that roof, because it's got a big hole in it, right? The roofer said they can get the job done pretty quickly, but I can't do anything if there's a stop work order. And I've tried to resolve it otherwise. I've explained why it's a temporary fence, and I haven't had any luck. So, I mean, I'm just dead in the water right now as far as doing anything because I have a stop work order.
And before we get off in the weeds a little bit, I think that informally, the city and I have worked this out. We've kind of had a nod to go forward. So I don't want to get off into too much of make it inhabitable or not. What I've requested from the board is give us some direction. I think that we've complied with the original 60-day requirement is my whole point of being here today. I just need to know going forward if you want something more specific. For example, if you do want the engineer's report to comply, I would respectfully request you give us some time. If you do want that roof completely sound, so to speak, as Chris was saying, make it not quite habitable, but so that it would withstand a hurricane and everything else. I think that at this point in time, we've complied with the prior order, and I'm asking for clarification going forward. And like I said, I think that we've been working with the city. I don't think that we're doing this anymore. I really think that we have a positive step going forward. We just need further direction from you to get the nod, at least to say, hey, we're not going to tear your building down. We see that you're making due diligent efforts in order to get what we're requiring. I'm just asking for further direction. I think that we've complied with your order, and if there's anything further requested from the city, we absolutely will do it.
Do y'all have engineering design on that roof, what you're going to do?
We do not as yet.
Yes, we had guidelines in the engineer's report that was already prepared by the city, the engineer that the city hired. It already has recommendations specific to that. And the roofing company in their bid includes engineering as part of the cost.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the stop work order was because there's no permits on the job, and you have to have permits and inspections for it to move forward. So it wasn't the painting and things like that. It was just the necessity of getting a permit before you start doing the roofing.
The windows and the doors have already been secured?
Yes, ma'am. Before we had the meeting last time.
Okay, that's just a temporary, it's not a permanent repair.
The openings were secured with plywood.
Yes.
Yeah, not the, because what happened was there used to be a side building, there was an add-on to the original theater building, and the prior tenant came and tore down that add-on building, and then just left big holes where the openings were like doors, and left it wide open. So that's why the weather was getting in, because that building, that little side addition was demolished. And that's what allowed that's what the openings were. There weren't windows, they were just big doorways. And they're not standard sized doorways either. So whenever I've talked to, I think I mentioned this last time, when I had a contractor come up and he said, if you want to put commercial, metal doors with the, push the button and push the bar to get out or whatever, that they would have to be special ordered. He said it would take about 6 months to get those in, because they would need to be special ordered in the backlog on special orders with materials. So that's why we secured it by putting up a plywood. And it's not the prettiest, and it's not my preference, but with the fence, the front fence, it's shielded from public view.
And with regard to something in the future, the reason that that's the better temporary choice instead of dumping all the money into it, because we have plans for essentially taking down that entire exterior wall and building out to the property line, of course, within the guidelines and everything else, and making that a huge event center. So there's a lot to be done. We're still in the works with the state, with any other kind of economic planning. Ms. Woodwicky is working diligently to try to get all those plans. Supposedly here, within the not too long foreseeable future, we're actually going to have some type of blueprint based upon what she's wanting and how she's wanting to build it out. But as far as, again, going back to my original statement, there's no possible way, even in 120 days, that we're going to get this thing habitable, and I don't think that's what the city's asking for. Again, I just ask that you redirect us and tell us what you want. We'll comply.
Casey, I have a question on, because the inside, it's dangerous. If you walk in there, I've been in that building, Sandra. But nonetheless, what if there's a fire and somebody, the firefighters need to go in there and everything? I mean, is there a sign that we can put in there that it's dangerous?
Actually, we did. There's a large red sign.
The red one? I haven't seen it,
So
okay.
that's actually a legal sign that the fire
Okay.
department requested. So
Uh-huh.
if you see that sign on any structure, that tells our first responders this building is too dangerous for you to charge
go.
into, that it could
Gotcha.
be hazardous to their life. So that's on the front of the theater and a couple of other buildings around town.
And then that's going to have to stay there until they fix the inside.
Right, because like I said, in the report, it talked about they didn't really do a good interior structural inspection. So there's some issues like the floor.
Yeah.
Obviously, if someone walked in there at night, it would be dangerous. So that's
Yeah.
why that extra sign is on the front building.
Right.
I personally don't have any problem giving y'all more time to roof it. That's, to me, that's the biggest safety problem down there.
Yes, sir.
Is the roof. Now, I know you can get that done in 90 days.
Yes, sir.
As far as the interior plan, I'm not even concerned about that, what y'all do. But the outside and the roof is the biggest concern.
Yes, sir. And we can get that done if you would, again, give us what the city has requested. If that's going to be our requirement, Chris has already told you, he has 2 contractors ready to stand by. Now he knows that we've essentially had a gentleman's agreement that we can, I don't want to use the word ignore, but we don't have to follow that stop order because we necessarily have to do what the board's told us to do. So we'll go forward with that. We'll get those roofers on there, and we'll comply if that's the direction you want us to give, if you'll allow us additional time. Yes, sir.
I'm good with the 90 days on the roof, like Kenny's talking about. As far as an unlimited time frame, like you referenced to in the beginning, I don't think that that's going to be a good idea because the city needs to have some teeth in this. And y'all also need to have some type of, some way to vent your concerns also. So at the end of the 90 days, I believe you should have to come back in, let us know how you're doing. If you're having any problems with the city or vice versa, if the city's having any problems with you, you can air them out in here and get everything straightened out. But to give an unlimited time frame, I don't agree with that.
And that's fair.
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to say, is I think we need to at least always have a time period that you have to come back and give us some more information on what you have or intend to do and more plans. But I think the 90 days for the roofing is reasonable.
Yes, ma'am. And like I said, that's what we needed, was that direction. And I agree, Ms. Simmons, that we can come back in here if you tell us so we can have it in writing so I can show her what she needs. then if you, for example, at the 90-day period, we come back in here, show compliance, but we also have, say, a prospective drawing or engineer's report or whatever it is based upon the plans that we have for the structure, and and again, we can comply with doing that as well. To show you that we're using diligence to try to get this thing prepared.
And to
But also-
clarify, as soon as they get their building permit, we'd pull the work order, they can move forward. You know, that's the only thing that holds that. So we can
My
definitely work
concern, I
with
just don't want it to sit there for years like it's been sitting there. Nobody touched it, it's been sitting there, nothing. All of a sudden now, boom, here we are, I guess because you give them a citation or whatever. Okay. Otherwise, we would have sat there another 20 years.
Being torn down, you know, that, obviously, that is going to spur a lot of people into action, including members of the committee. So that's what we're doing here. And we want to show you that we absolutely want to comply with your request and safety.
And for clarification, Ms. Foreman just said she needs a permit. I need to know what permit she needs. A permit for the roof?
whatever work you're going to be doing. So if you're going to do the roof and trusses, then for the roof and trusses.
Okay, that'll be no problem.
So you need a motion for, say, the 90 days for them to repair the roof and then come back after that for interior? How do you want it to work?
After 90 days, they need to come and give us an update.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
maybe whatever y'all decide, but, so
You can
if you
give
want
us an
90
update.
days to get a permit, repair the roof, and then to come back with an updated timeline of proposed,
Opposed to it?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
whether or not you want the engineer recommendation or whatever y'all choose, or even at that time,
Yeah.
propose something in the future.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question on the floor. Sorry.
My name is Sam Rayner, and I reside in Freeport, Texas. I've been a citizen of Freeport for 80 years, so I've lived my entire life here in Freeport. The first meeting that y'all had concerning this project, they were given 30 days in which to come up with a plan. At that meeting, I said that 30 days was just not long enough. They needed at least 90 days to come up with a physical plan, not only a financial plan, but a construction plan. And with that being said, each phase of the construction supposed to come to the city and say, we're gonna hire our engineers, our plumbers, electricians, and this is a firm we're gonna be using, this is the amount of money we're gonna be using, and this is how long it's gonna take. It's gonna take this long to repair the roofing and give them a drawback. If they don't comply, well, do what you have to do. But at the time, I thought 30 days was just not long enough for him to put a solid plan together. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. When the stop work order was issued, was Mr. Duncan informed that it was because there was no permit request?
I'm honestly not sure. My building inspector went and issued the stop work order, so I don't know if there was a conversation or not.
But all it would have took was a call to the city to find out why the stop work order was issued,
Right.
correct?
Right, and
Okay.
it said
Well,
on
that's-
there, stop work, no permits. It's your standard stop work order.
It just felt to me like we were being led in a direction. It's the reason they haven't done anything is because there was a stop work order issued.
That's
And
true.
it's- Well, yeah, but you knew it was because you needed a permit.
And
No.
Terry, I'll follow.
It was because they said I needed a permit for a fence, which is a temporary fence.
Okay, and Barry, I'll follow.
And I did ask them why.
I'll follow the sword on that one as the property owner's representative. Again, we've been working in a gentleman's agreement type thing, and perhaps my communication to our tenant was not clear that they're going to forego enforcement of that stop order, that the board's edicts trump whatever is out there from the city.
Understand.
And so, like I said, I'll take fault in that.
No, that's fine, that's
Because
fine.
I don't know if Chris wanted to run the risk of, like he said, time in jail and the fines based upon what I was comfortable working with the city because I'm old school. You put a paw on a paw, you tell me what you're gonna do, I expect you to do it. But again, I'll take the blame on that. we'll move forward. We're getting it on record here.
Well,
The
and,
city
and I will
is-
apologize to that. I've had a lot of communication with Mr. Colvin, and I haven't had as much with Mr. Duncan. So I need to continue to keep them equally informed so that there's not any miscommunication.
Well, from the board, you can get your time frames and stuff like that. But you know, this whole thing's going to be fluid. So y'all's communication between each other, y'all working together, there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to do, but y'all working together is what's going to make this it's either going to make it or not make it on how y'all work together, the way I see it.
My whole point to be here today is that I just want to stop the idea that we're moving towards some kind of destruction of this property, to show that we are using due diligence, we're working hand in hand, and again, we failed, I guess, on the roof portion of what was required of us, and that's where we've agreed that the 90-day extension to comply with round one would be there, and now I'm understanding, like I requested, give us a direction at that day 90, now we're gonna report back to you with what other additional
next.
things that we plan on doing.
And I would like to say that I was approached by the Main Street coordinator, and she said that they're going to be receiving some assistance with some architectural drawings and conceptual, I mean, they're willing to help them move forward, so that's very encouraging.
Well, I think it's really important that we understand exactly what we're saying and you understand what we're saying, and if there was some miscommunication in this. But at this point, I don't think we expect anything interior at all to be even, but to get this thing safe, to be sitting there for the citizens to walk down the sidewalk and the other businesses around it is important, because I'm sorry, we've been doing this several years and we've been receive a lot of promises that don't always get fulfilled, and people they keep expecting, well, I'm going to get to it. Well, I'm sorry, you're not. So, but as long as you're showing good faith, I think we will too.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right? I agree.
Are you ready to close the public hearing?
Yeah, let me go ahead. Any more comments? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close up public hearing at 6:42. And do I have a motion, or what are we going to, what's the update? What are we going
I'll
to?
make the motion to give them 90 days to get the roof fixed and come back with a structural plan. Since she's going to lift the stop work order, he can get his people in and come up with a structural plan for the repair.
Got that, Yvette? Yeah?
And then come back in 90 days for the update.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay. Ken. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And you want to give us an update on the demos or the repairs, or real quick?
Real quick. I'll run through them. Let's see. Okay, these are just, really, it's the same updates from last time. Let's see, this one was a BOA order to repair for 605 South Avenue H. When the owner really started contacting contractors, it was going to be more than he thought, so he has decided to demolish. As you can see, this picture was taken today. He's already got the dumpster out there. He's about to start demolishing. 607 North Avenue F. This one is to be demolished by October 17th. Last communication, the owner said they were going to demolish themselves. 23 North Avenue F. We haven't had any contact from the owners since the meeting. We had originally, the BOA order was to demolish 2 of the accessory structures and repair the main structure, but nothing's been done at this point. And that order will be expired on September 23rd. 202 South Front, we haven't had any update on this property yet, but their deadline is not over until October 19th. And then 104 Mystery Harbor, same thing, we haven't had any updates on this, but his deadline's not over till the 19th. And that's all. So thank you very much for your support.
So at the point where they're, like you said, October 19th, I said, so they will come back to us, or you're just going to go ahead and demolish them?
Depending on, because each order said something differently, so if you gave the city, usually we contact the owner and we make sure that they're going to either demolish or repair, and if they don't, then the city would take over and demolish if we needed to.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Sammy, second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, guys.